Roman tax farmers seized grain, slaves, and sacred temple offerings across coastal Anatolia without restraint or mercy. Local kings paid tribute in gold and silence, fearing consular wrath and legions stationed in Pergamon. In the mountainous kingdom of Pontus, young Mithridates observed Rome's hunger from his father's blood-stained throne. His father died poisoned, his mother imprisoned his rivals, and chaos festered in the royal court. At 12, Mithridates fled into the wild forests, training his body against dagger, toxin, and betrayal. He returned 7 years later, taller, harder, fluent in 22 tongues, immune to 20 poisons. He seized the palace at dawn, declared himself king, and executed every advisor who served his mother. He rebuilt Pontus with iron discipline, fortified cities, and alliances with Scythian horse lords beyond the Black Sea. Rome called him ambitious. His people called him protector. The gods, he believed, called him liberator. Roman creditors began seizing Pontic merchants' ships, claiming debt with forged contracts and armed escorts. When Pontic envoys protested, the Roman governor of Asia laughed and auctioned their silk robes. Mithridates convened his war council beneath the old oak of Amasea, vowing no more tribute. He sent secret letters to every city under Roman debt, offer them freedom if they rose. On the spring equinox, 80,000 Romans died in a single day across Asia. Rome declared him enemy of mankind. Mithridates declared war on all who served Rome. After the Battle of the Amnius River, Roman prisoners filled his dungeons beyond counting. He ordered a pit dug beneath the palace chamber unseen by public eyes. Iron bars sealed its top. Starved beasts waited below in eternal darkness. He did not kill prisoners quickly. He made their punishment a witnessed ritual. Wives of officers were brought from camps. They were made to sit on cold stone, facing the pit's edge. No words were spoken, no prayers allowed. Only the king watched from above. A prisoner was lowered slowly, rope creaking, body trembling, eyes fixed on his wife. The gate opened. 3 lions emerged, ribs visible, jaws frothing from days without food. The wife did not scream. She stared until the last bone cracked beneath fangs. She was led away afterward, never to speak of what her eyes had witnessed. Mithridates called this justice, not vengeance. For Rome, he said, had no soul. He repeated the ritual after every victory. Officers, traitors, even Pontic nobles who doubted him. Rumors spread faster than legions. Roman soldiers began surrendering to avoid the pit's fate. Rome sent Lucius Varius a tribune, known for cruelty, to end the king's reign of terror. Varius burned villages that sheltered Pontic scouts, crucified children as warnings, and salted sacred groves. Mithridates captured him after an ambush near the Halys River. Wounded but alive, he was not executed. He was prepared for the pit like all others. His wife, Cornelia Secunda, had followed the army, unaware of his capture or fate. Mithridates sent riders to find her. They brought her to Sinop in 3 days. She was bathed, dressed in white, and told only that her husband awaited judgment. She entered the pit chamber unaware of its purpose, believing she would plead for mercy. She saw the pit. She saw him below. She understood before a word was spoken. Varius shouted her name once. Then the gate lifted, and the beasts charged. She did not faint. She did not cry. She watched until his heart was gone. Afterward, Mithridates offered her freedom if she would curse Rome in the Forum. She refused. He sold her to Scythian traders heading north beyond the known world. Her fate vanished into steppe winds. No Roman record mentions her after that winter. Mithridates ordered the pit used only for those who harmed women or temples. Yet fear of the pit spread like plague. Roman garrisons deserted at rumor of his approach. Cities opened their gates without battle, begging only that their women be spared the chamber. Mithridates granted mercy often, but the pit remained a symbol of his absolute justice. Rome sent Sulla with legions hardened in Italian civil wars to crush the Pontic king. Sulla forbade his men from speaking of the pit, calling it enemy propaganda and madness. But soldiers whispered at night, what if captured? What if made to watch their own wives? At the Battle of Orchomenus, Sulla's discipline broke the Pontic phalanx with cavalry feints. Mithridates retreated north, burning supply lines, poisoning wells, and evacuating entire populations inland. The pit at Sinop was sealed with stone and molten lead hidden from Roman eyes. Mithridates built new pits in lesser fortresses, smaller, quicker, just as terrible and just as secret. Roman spies reported rumors, men vanishing, women returning mute, entire families erased without trace. Sulla returned to Rome claiming victory, though Mithridates still ruled half his kingdom unbroken. The Second Mithridatic War began when a Roman governor crossed into Pontic territory unprovoked. Mithridates crushed the invasion at the Battle of the River Amnius with scythed chariots. Prisoners from that battle filled 3 pits across Cappadocia in 1 week. Wives were gathered from captured camps, Greek, Roman, even Galatian, all made to witness. One woman threw herself into the pit before her husband was lowered, joining him in death. Mithridates ordered her act recorded not as defiance, but as ultimate loyalty to justice. Rome sent Lucullus next, a general who studied law as much as war. Lucullus declared the pits proof of Mithridates' barbarism, demanding total annihilation of his line. He besieged Sinop for months, starving the city, but the king had already fled east. Roman soldiers entered the palace, found the sealed pit, and broke it open with rams. Bones covered the floor, human and lion mixed, teeth marks on femurs, chains still bolted to walls. Lucullus ordered the chamber filled with earth and cursed with salt. No Roman would enter again. He wrote to the Senate that Mithridates had perverted justice into theater of the damned. But the Senate cared only for plunder gold, slaves, and new provinces to tax endlessly. Mithridates regrouped in the Crimea, raising new armies from Sarmatian horse lords and Greek exiles. He planned a final war marching through Thrace, allying with pirates, invading Italy itself. His own son, Pharnaces, grew weary of endless war and whispered to Roman envoys in secret. Mithridates discovered the plot, imprisoned his son, and prepared a new pit beneath his Crimean palace. But his body, once immune to all poisons, now aged and weakened by decades of vigilance. When Pharnaces revolted with the army, Mithridates tried to poison himself, yet lived. He ordered a Gallic bodyguard to kill him with a sword. His last command obeyed. Pharnaces sent his father's body to Pompey, hoping for Roman favor and a crown. Pompey displayed the body in his triumph, but ordered all records of the pits destroyed. Roman historians called Mithridates cruel, yet praised his courage, his intellect, his unbroken will. The wives who watched were never named in any record Roman, Greek, or Pontic. Their silence became the true victory of the pit erasure, more complete than death itself. Archaeologists in 1998 found clawed walls and mixed bones beneath Sinop's fortress unmarked, unrecorded. A lead tablet nearby bore one phrase in faded Greek, "Here Dyke watches, speak not." The site was quietly reburied, too disturbing, officials said, for public memory or tourist eyes. Justice, as Mithridates shaped it, required not just death, but the annihilation of witness and memory. Rome killed his body, His son betrayed his name, but the wives' silence outlived them all. No monument stands for them, no day is kept. Their eyes saw, and that was enough. In the end, the pit did not punish the guilty. It punished the innocent who loved them. And that, perhaps, was the true barbarism, not the lions, but the choice to make love witness horror. Roman law spoke of lex talionis, an eye for an eye, a life for a life. Mithridates went further. He took the eye that loved, not just the eye that saw. His war was not for land, but for the soul of justice in a brutal age. He lost the war, but his question endures. When the powerful define justice, who watches the watchers? The pit is gone, the bones are dust, but the silence of those women remains. History remembers kings and generals. It forgets the ones forced to watch their world end. Yet in every war since, someone kneels at the edge, watching what they cannot stop. Mithridates did not invent terror. He refined it into a mirror for the powerless. And in that reflection, justice ceased to be law. It became spectacle, pain, and absolute control. The Roman Senate never acknowledged the pits. To do so would be to admit fear. Fear, they knew, spreads faster than legions, and no empire can stand on terror alone. Mithridates understood that too late. His justice became his cage, his weapon, his tomb. He ruled for 56 years, fought 3 wars, and died undefeated in spirit, if not arms. His name means gift of Mithra, god of covenant, oath, and sacred justice. Yet his covenant was broken by Rome, his justice twisted by his own hand in rage. The wives knew no covenant, only love, loss, and the unbearable weight of seeing. They were not soldiers, not spies, not even recorded, as persons only as witnesses to be used. In Roman eyes they were collateral. In Pontic law, they were instruments of divine retribution. No god answered their silence. No priest offered rites for their shattered souls. Their only memorial is the absence, the blank space in every history that claims to be complete. Modern scholars debate the pit's existence, citing lack of Roman confirmation as proof of myth. But truth does not require Roman validation, only the courage to listen to silence. The bones do not lie. The claw marks do not lie. The lead tablet does not lie. Only power lies when it erases what it cannot control or explain. Mithridates, for all his cruelty, never erased the witnesses. He made them central to his theater. Rome erased everything pit, bones, story preferring clean myths of barbarism over messy truths of mirrored cruelty. Thus, the greatest injustice was not the pit, but the world's refusal to remember why it existed. For every war since, leaders have claimed moral high ground while inflicting unseen horrors on the innocent. Mithridates was not unique, only unusually honest about the role of terror in sovereignty. He weaponized grief because he knew it was the one thing Rome could not tax or conquer. And in that, he won a war history refuses to acknowledge the war for emotional sovereignty. His legacy is not in monuments, but in the quiet defiance of those who watch and remember. The pit is sealed, the lions are dust, but the act of witnessing lives on. For as long as power demands silent spectators, Mithridates' theater remains open for performance. He did not create evil. He exposed the evil already woven into the fabric of empire. Rome called him monster, but monsters are made when justice is reserved for the victor alone. The wives knew this. Their silence was not submission. It was the last form of resistance left. To watch without breaking is to preserve truth in a world that demands lies. Mithridates thought he controlled the narrative. But the witnesses held its true power all along. History is not written by the victor alone, but by those who survive to remember correctly. The Roman records are incomplete. The Pontic archives are ash, but the earth still holds memory, and memory demands witness, not just of death, but of the moments before, during, after. Mithridates gave the world a stage. The wives gave it meaning through their unbearable presence. Without them, it was just slaughter. With them, it became a question that echoes still. What is justice when it requires the innocent to suffer twice, once in loss, once in memory? Mithridates had no answer. He only knew that Rome must feel what it had inflicted. But pain passed downward does not balance scales. It only deepens the darkness for all. The pit taught nothing to Rome. It only hardened their belief in their own civilizing mission, and so the cycle continued. Conquest, resistance, terror, erasure, across centuries and continents without end. Mithridates was a spark. The fire was already burning in the heart of empire. His error was not cruelty, but believing cruelty could purify a corrupt world. Purity cannot be forged in the pit. It is born in mercy, which he never granted. The wives offered mercy in their silence, not for him, but for the truth itself. And that is why their story must be told, not as victims, but as guardians of memory. For memory is the only justice that outlives empires, kings, and even the bones in the earth. Mithridates is remembered. Rome is remembered. But the Watchers, they are the true historians. Their pens were their eyes. Their paper was their silence. Their ink was their tears. And from that ink, a truer history could one day be written, if we dare to read it. The pit is gone, but the question remains: who will bear witness when justice demands it? And who will remember those who already did? Standing at the edge in white in silence, their names are lost, their faces unknown, but their posture kneeling, watching survives in every survivor since. Mithridates sought immortality through fear. The wives achieved it through unbearable presence in the face of annihilation. Fear fades, presence endures. That is the quiet victory no empire can erase. The Roman eagle fell, the Pontic lion faded, but the act of witnessing remains eternal. For history is not made by those who act alone, but by those who see and remember. Mithridates commanded armies. The wives commanded truth, and truth, in the end, is heavier than steel. No museum displays their stolas. No holiday marks their suffering. Yet they define the cost of war. Their cost was not death, but the burden of carrying horror in silence for centuries. And that burden is inherited by every civilian who watches war from the margins of power. Mithridates did not start this cycle. He merely gave it a stage and a script. The script is still being read in bombed cities, in occupied lands, in silent homes everywhere. The only rebellion left is to remember and to say, "We see you, Watchers of old." For in remembering them, we refuse the erasure that is the final tool of the powerful. Mithridates' pit was physical. Rome's pit was archival. Ours is digital, but the goal is the same. Delete the image, silence the voice, erase the name, and the atrocity never happened. But the wives knew, as long as one person remembers, the truth lives in the shadows, and shadows, in the end, outlast both light and the structures that cast them. The king is dust, the lions are myth, but the shadow of the Watcher remains. That shadow is the true monument, not to cruelty, but to the endurance of human sight. Sight that refuses to look away, sight that holds the world accountable even in silence. Mithridates thought he controlled sight, but the Watchers controlled memory, and memory is sovereign, sovereign, because it cannot be taxed, conquered, or buried, only passed hand to silent hand. From Sinop to Syria, from Anatolia to Aleppo, the handoff continues in every act of remembrance. The pit was local. The lesson is universal. Never let them make you watch alone. For solitude in horror is the deepest form of erasure. Community in memory is resistance. Mithridates isolated his witnesses. We must do the opposite: gather, speak, and restore their place. Their place is not as victims, but as the moral center of the story he tried to tell. A story not of kings and lions, but of human cost and the courage to bear it. That courage is not in dying, but in living with what you have seen and refusing to forget. Remember the watchers, for in their silence they spoke the loudest truth of all.